Hey, this is Jim Rayner broadcasting for ConquerCup number 13. Now, this is a preliminary round, third round match, best of one, between Gannon and Chris oLizious. Gannon is ranked 72nd on the ladder this month. Chris oLizious is ranked 81st. Gannon's got a record of 26-4. Chris oLizious has a record of 82-51. So I'd say Chris oLizious' ranking is a lot more reliable than Gannon's. Gannon only being 26-4, it's hard to tell how good he really is. Now he's red Soviets on the right side of the map. Chris oLizious is blue allies on the left side of the map, and the map is Infinity Island, which is a small map. And let's get started. So, Gannon on the right side as Red Soviets begins with a reactor, which means he will be going fast war factory. Chris oLizious has yet to be able to produce a building this early in the game, and he has a boot camp up, and it looks like he's building a dog. So he started off pretty standard, and it looks like the second unit is a dog as well. So he's going to, obviously, Chris oLizious is building a couple of dogs. He's going to probably send them straight into Gannon's base. Chris oLizious has walled up his power plant, and he will probably place a refinery in there. Gannon has this refinery, and I think we're going to see a war factory from him at this point. Yes, we are. So Gannon now has a reactor, a refinery, and a war factory, which is now spotted by Chris oLizious. So it will, we'll see how Chris reacts to that war factory build. Now Chris continues to press his dog forward into the water to see exactly what Gannon is up to. He also has a dog on the opening ridge here. Now the war factory by Gannon is up. What is Chris's response to that war factory? We haven't seen as of yet. Chris continues to crank out infantry. One javelin trooper, one peacekeeper. Now we see Chris has elected to build to build an air base in response to the war factory by Gannon. Both players, well, Chris oLizious has a refinery, an oil derrick. Gannon does not have an oil derrick because he doesn't have any infantry. And that was a good bombing run by the Vindicator, severely damaging the sickle produced by Gannon. Gannon now has 2 refineries up and running, and his MCV is moving towards the center of the map. Chris is now, if you look on the minimap, Chris now has 2 ore refineries and an oil derrick. So basically the economies are pretty much even for both of these players. The Vindicators decide to back away from the bullfrogs that were firing away at it. And as you can see, Chris's infantry, he's got 4 javelin soldiers, 5 javelin soldiers, and a peacekeeper. And he also has 2 Vindicator bombers. Chris's MCV has been unpacked and is now moving towards the base, towards the center of the map. And Gannon has killed the dog that was scouting on the front of the ridge here. And Gannon has built a barrack. So now Gannon has 2 unit producing structures, a war factory and a barracks. And Chris still has a dog in the water. And we got a bombing run here, which is successful. He damages the barracks without getting hurt by the bullfrogs. Both bombers survive. So Chris looks like he's doing a pretty good job of doing a little bit of damage with those Vindicators. And they just come back and re-bomb. And Gannon has built an engineer, and he's not repairing the barracks with it. He's going to go for economy, and he's going to take the oil derrick. So we now have 3 ore refineries and 1 oil derrick owned by Gannon. So he has some classic action, and we got a whole pack of bears. And nice roar by Gannon there. Here comes a dog, though. None of the dogs are going to really be able to stand up to that sickle, but Gannon has to keep the sickle back because the sickle will get killed. No, and that's a great roar. Wow, some nice work by both players. Some nice micro. A lot of infantry is going to die in this fight here. Oh, and the sickle died, but Gannon has a terror drone surprise, and that terror drone that popped up, that that killed some infantry. So both players have lost a lot of units. Let's see what Gannon has left. Gannon's not building anything out of his war factory, and he has a Tier 2 super reactor that has brought him up to Tier 2, and Chris oLizious has now got an armor facility. So Chris has got a good economy, and he's got 3 buildings that can produce units. He's got a boot camp, an armor facility, and an air base. Now the bombers are incoming. Let's see what Chris decides to go after here. Is he going to go after the barracks? It looks like he put an engineer in there. And Chris elects to take out a bullfrog, and both bombers survive. So it's a nice little bombing run, and it looks like Gannon is cranking out tanks, and he's moving his MCV down into the water. And Chris is beginning to produce some light armored vehicles that will get destroyed by the type of units that Gannon's producing. So I'm not sure what he thinks he's going to do with those units, but the mixture of units Gannon has will chew those things up. And Chris is doing some smart scouting in there. He's going into Gannon's base to see what's up. And again, both players still have the same economy. If you look on the mini-map, Gannon now has a 4th ore refinery in the water. It's not built yet, but it will be. And both players have got a ton of cash to spend. Gannon has 2 unit producing structures, an armor facility, a war factory and a barracks. And Chris oLizious has 3 unit producing structures. The armor facility, the airbase. The airbase is producing, we'll see, it's about to crank out another unit. And his choice is a cryocopter. So he's obviously teched up. He's got 2 Guardian tanks. So he's got some heavy armor. That's an interesting move. Gannon seems to be, is that another tank by the speed of that? Gannon, the guy's a tank specialist. So Gannon is massing heavy infantry, like heavy metal type units. We're talking flak troopers, tanks. These are units that do heavy damage to big vehicles and buildings. And he's also got the terror drone to freeze anything, to use the stasis ray to freeze things. And it looks like Chris lost his cryocopter to these 4 bullfrogs. One of the bullfrogs has been shrunk, and I don't see the cryocopter anywhere. So those 4 bullfrogs, and let's see if there's any damage. There's no damage at all. It looks like those full bullfrogs chewed up the cryocopter, and now we got the rush by Gannon. And he's bringing in his MCV as well. So we got a lot of heavy armor here. 2, 4. And Chris is going to try to use some dog IFVs to stun the infantry. This is an interesting move by Gannon to set up his MCV. He was going to plant some stuff on the ground, it looks like. And now it looks like Gannon's just going for it. And I think Chris is in trouble here. There's too many tanks and too many flak troopers. He's going to have a rough time. His bombers can kill a few tanks, but he needs to get those bombers in the air, killing tanks one at a time. If he's unable to do that, it looks like Gannon's going to steamroll him. With the number of tanks, and there's more tanks on the way. That's a nice cryo-get by Chris, but he's got nothing. He's got almost nothing left. Yeah, Chris has almost nothing left. Gannon just absolutely steamrolled him. Even if Chris had gotten his bombers in the air and did a really good set of bombing runs, he still would be hard-pressed. There still would probably be 2 or 3 tanks in his base right now. That MCV is dead. Again, those flak troopers are going to do heavy damage to any kind of building or vehicle. Gannon's got heroic tanks. This game's over. This game's over. Very good. Nice opening by both players. Gannon took a bit of an economic advantage there with the 4th refinery. Had Chris been able to really very effectively use his cryocopter and his bombers, this might have been a close game. But once Chris lost the cryocopter, and one of the tanks even has he's got heroic tanks with secondary weapons. Again, Gannon's famous for those secondary leech weapons that he gets when he does this big push. And it looks like he's really he's gonna put him away.